Hi, my name is Joe Kempe with the iPod Repair Clinic. I've been repairing iPods since 2003. Thousands of iPods. Today we're going to do an iPod Classic 7th generation upgrade, which is more of a cosmetic upgrade. A lot of people ask me, they want to change the face, they want to change the back. Now those are both cosmetics. It's not a critical repair, but some people just want their iPod to look a little bit different so that they can differentiate between different iPods that they have. I have clients of mine with 7 to 10 iPods, so they want different colors, and there are about 10 different colors on the market. But anyhow, I'm going to show you how to change the color of a typical iPod Classic 7th generation from gray to blue. We're going to go to blue, and this one particular we have the center button as well. It's going to stay black. The click wheel is going to stay black. You can change the click wheel to white. It doesn't really matter. I don't like changing click wheels because they can be very temperamental. So if the click wheel is working well with your iPod, leave it alone, because it's really a difficult thing to find a really good click wheel. If it's working, don't change it. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is, like we do with both the batteries and other upgrades, we're going to open up the iPod. Now you see, these iPods are not made with any screws or anything like that, and it seems very difficult to open them, but if you use my technique, you shouldn't have any problem. So the first thing I do is I find the access point. I like the corner over here by the Classic. And what I do is insert a small screwdriver, and then what I do is I go and start using my spudger tool to knock down the clips. There are clips all the way around, and that's what holds down the face. What you're going to do is keep going around and around. Going to come down around on this side and try to, there we go, and try to knock down all the clips. Do not come near the LCD. You come near the LCD, you will break the LCD, and that's going to be a whole other repair. Today, we're just going to concentrate on the cosmetic upgrade. And when you take off the bat, when you start opening this, be very careful not to tear any cables. When you start, when you see the battery cable connected to the battery connector, just pull it straight up. And that should do it. Don't open any gates, don't open the tension bar, because you will break the battery cable. You will break the battery connector. And what we're going to do now is we're going to just remove the prior upgrades, which this particular one was a 256 flash drive. So what I'm going to do is just remove the iFlash. And you can leave the flex cable in here, it doesn't really matter. We're going to remove the headphone jack from a prior installation when we did, changing the headphone jack. So all you're left basically is with the chassis. And you can take out the rubbers and set them aside. Now what you're going to do is you're going to work around and you're going to just undo the screws. There's 6 screws. Use a quality screwdriver that's magnetic, so you're not running all over looking for screws. And it makes your life a lot easier. All right, so let me take all these screws out. And we're going to do the other side. And here we go. And the last screw is here. Now, before you remove the face, you must release the LCD. And what you're going to do is you're going to go underneath the tension bar, just go very gently side to side on the tension bar underneath the LCD, and you're just going to go underneath the LCD with a little screwdriver and just pick it up. Once it's released like this, and you pick up the face, because some LCDs are like this one right here, you see that? As I'm picking it up, the LCD is still connected to the face. So that's going to be a problem if you don't undo the connector. It will rip the cable. So a lot of things I do is from past experience. I know that I've got to do certain things. So on this particular one, I'm going to All right, everything looks really nice and clean. On this particular one, I've got to take off the LCD. So you got to be very careful, be very gentle, not to break the LCD. And again, you just use your fingernails and you take the LCD out, it's nice and clean. What you want to do then is plant this back on the chassis, on the frame, you want to call it, and it's in place. The next thing you want to do is you want to take the center button and put it in place. You're going to have to kind of spin it around to find the place where it has to go. It has guides, little guides. I'm holding the LCD with one finger in the back. Then what you're going to do is, you see, this is the new screen. It comes with this backing. What you want to do is remove the backing and set this in place, kind of holding everything at the same time. And there you go. And just kind of be very, very gentle. Don't be too aggressive. And I feel that this is a little bit depressed. I feel the center button is a little bit depressed. And I'm glad that happened, because I want to teach you how to fix a depressed button. Not a psychologist, but I'll show you how to fix a depressed button. What you're going to do is, some of these aftermarket buttons don't have enough meat underneath it. So what you got to do is add a little bit of either electrical tape or some sort of a adhesive, some sort of a black. Oh, you know what you use? I'll tell you what you use. You use this. It came off of the face. And you may need a couple of layers. What I do is I plant one right underneath the button over here. Sometimes I use two. I make little squares out of it, and I plant this guy on the center button. So basically it gives me a little bit more rise out of the button, and you'll see that the button will be flush. And all I'm doing is I'm putting a little bit of layer on top of it so that the center button now will be flush. And I use gravity to help me. Again, I'm going to go ahead and plant this guy down, and you'll see that the center button now is much more flush. There we go. It's perfect. Much more flush. And click them all. Make sure that they all click. Nice. And then you can go ahead and reattach the LCD. Kind of back it up. Be very gentle. Put it in very gently, and then close the gate. All right? So there you have that. Okay, now we continue. We have to put the screws back, but let's do this. Okay. Yeah, we can put all the screws back and see how it's going on. What I like to do, though, is I like to make sure that everything is working. So just bear with me here. I always want to make sure my LCD is still working. Everything is still working. And I got the big X. The big X is only because I have not connected the hard drive. So I just want to make sure that I check connectivity. I check myself during the process. I don't like to just put everything back and put everything together and hope for the best. No, I check everything along the way. I make sure that everything is nice and seated properly. I want to make sure that the screws go in nicely. So again, I want to make sure everything has been tested before I do my final test, and then I clip it closed. So I don't clip it closed right away. Because once you clip it closed, it's not easy to open, as you saw. All right. And there we go. And there we go here on the second side. But you see that it's pretty easy to do this if you have proper screwdrivers, which are magnetic. We'll go ahead and put the last two screws in, and then this final screw in the middle. Kind of alternate. All right. Once we have all of these, we can introduce all the other flex cables. Again, with the headphone jack, what you want to do then, we're going to be changing the back. This back here is kind of ragged. I have a nice shiny back over here. Same idea, basically. You just have to transplant the different components. So what we're going to do is remove the battery, be very gentle, pick it up on the right side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the headphone jack out here and the plastic frame right here. This is very important because this protects the connector. If you don't have this plastic frame in place, or if it's broken, you need to change it, because this will protect the main port from being broken from inserting it. So what you're going to do now is just remove the 2 screws at the bottom here. And you got, everything's gotta be very methodical. Just bear with me here. It's a little tricky. These are really, really tiny screws here. All right. And I use a light cloth here so that I can see the screws very easily. Go ahead and transplant this little guy. I'm transplanting the plastic guide, and then I'm going to go ahead and transplant the headphone jack. There we go. All right, that's in place. All right. Okay, if you see this, the new ones don't have any kind of padding on them, so you got to transfer some padding. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. At the underside of the headphone jack, you have a piece of rubber that protects the circuitry of the headphone jack from shorting out against the casing. It's this little rubber here. So you're going to want to transplant that rubber to the new case back. All right. You just use your flathead screwdriver to do that. It's not difficult. What sometimes I do is I'll remove that piece of rubber here, and I just set it on top of the electronics on the headphone jack right here, so I know it's going on perfectly. And that works the same way, accomplishes the same. All right. Next we want to do is just plant that right on the case. All right. 2 small screws. Go back to your magnetic screwdrivers. And this one is a Phillips. And go ahead and make sure that it grabs and it comes to a stop. You never want those screws to keep screwing, turning. Yeah, it came to a stop, a nice hard stop. Okay, this little guy goes at the top, and the last screw goes here. All right. Okay, we're all good here. It's fully populated. Now what we do is we got a couple more foam rubber pieces here. I don't really understand the reason for a lot of this, but because the engineers at Apple did this, I have a lot of respect for them. I put them back the way they were. All right. I set them in place. This one's a little tricky. And I guess it's for like insulation and things like that. All right, so let's put this little guy on here. To put in a headphone jack cable, you straighten it out as best as you can and slide it in very, very gently into the socket. You slide it into the socket, and then we'll close the gate. You gotta make sure you get those. There we go. It's all the way in. Close the gate, press down a little bit so it kind of hits the adhesive. You can reintroduce your battery over here. Reinsert your battery, and you're good to go. I'm going to put back the flash drive. It's a 256 flash. I'm going to use my screwdriver to help guide this flex cable into the connector of the iFlash. And once you get it in all the way, close the gate, put your pads in. I always use pads to take up whatever slack there was. Okay, and then I use both pads. This is the two blue pads. Put back these bumpers, and then I want to test the unit. We're going to test the unit, see how beautiful it is in blue. And go ahead. There we go. Again, I don't clip it closed just yet. You see, it's all ready to go. So what we're going to do is just test this thing just to make sure that the click wheel's functional, everything is functional. I did about 2 of these for a gentleman last week. I think I could sell him a 3rd. This is as nice as the ones I made for him. Here we go. So you can choose the language. There you go. It's nice. And you want a very sensitive click wheel. And that's it. That's it. Changing, basically a cosmetic change on an iPod Classic. It's not that critical, but some people like, some people want to have a different iPod just to look different. And some people like to be, very unique. So it has a new back, new front. For all intents and purposes, it's a new iPod. And with the new flash technology, that's newer than anything else on the market. Thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to see you on another episode of iPod Repair Clinic repair videos.